Imagine a time long before the internet, before smartphones, even before many of your parents were born. The year was 1969. The world held its breath, gathered around fuzzy television screens, united by a single, incredible event. Humanity was about to step onto another world for the very first time. A massive rocket, the Saturn V, had soared into the blackness of space, carrying 3 brave astronauts. Their destination was our closest celestial neighbor, a place of silent craters and ancient dust, the Moon. It was a journey of immense risk, a testament to human ingenuity and our unyielding desire to explore the unknown cosmos that surrounds us. Millions watched as the Eagle lander, a small and fragile-looking craft, descended toward the lunar surface. The voices from Mission Control in Houston, Texas were tense, counting down the final feet. Then, a message crackled across 240,000 miles of empty space. The Eagle has landed. A little while later, a figure in a bulky white suit carefully climbed down a ladder. Astronaut Neil Armstrong placed his boot onto the fine, gray soil. He spoke words that would echo through history forever. That's one small step for a man, one giant leap for mankind. This moment was more than just a scientific achievement. It was a profound symbol of what we, as a species, could accomplish when we dared to dream big. Following Armstrong was his fellow astronaut, Buzz Aldrin. Together, they bounced in the low lunar gravity, which is only 1/6 as strong as the gravity we feel here on Earth. They planted an American flag, a symbol of their nation's achievement during a period known as the space race against the Soviet Union. They collected samples of moon rocks and dust, precious souvenirs from another world that would be studied by scientists for decades to come. The entire world celebrated this monumental success, a shared experience that brought people together in a way few things ever have. For a brief, shining moment, we were not just citizens of different countries. We were all inhabitants of planet Earth, looking up at our moon with newfound wonder. The Apollo 11 mission was a landmark in our cosmic journey. It represented the culmination of years of dedicated work by hundreds of thousands of scientists, engineers, and technicians. It was a story of courage, innovation, and the powerful human spirit of exploration. The astronauts returned to Earth as heroes, having walked on the shores of a new cosmic ocean. The footprints they left behind in the silent dust of the moon were a permanent reminder that we had touched the heavens. That single event changed our perspective of our place in the universe, proving that the stars were not just distant lights, but potential destinations for future generations to explore. Even with the whole world watching, a different kind of story began to take shape not long after the celebrations ended. Some people started to ask questions. They looked at the pictures and videos from the moon with a critical eye and thought something seemed off. Could such an incredible achievement have been faked? This idea, that the moon landing was a grand performance staged here on Earth, began to grow. It became one of the most famous conspiracy theories of all time. These weren't just a few quiet whispers. They were loud questions that suggested the entire Apollo program was an elaborate hoax, a movie directed by the government to win the space race. One of the most common points of doubt involves the American flag. In the photographs, the flag appears to be waving or fluttering. Skeptics ask, how can a flag wave when there is no air or wind on the moon? It's a good question that makes you think. To them, this suggested the scene was filmed in a studio on Earth, where a hidden fan created a breeze. They also pointed to the photographs and noticed something missing. In the pitch-black lunar sky, there are no stars. Where did all the stars go? Surely, without an atmosphere to obscure the view, the sky should be filled with brilliant, shining stars. The absence of these celestial bodies seemed like a major oversight for a supposedly real space mission. Another puzzle for the doubters lies in the shadows seen in the lunar photos. The sun should be the only major light source on the moon. If that's true, then all shadows should be parallel to each other. However, in some photos, the shadows from the astronauts and the lander seem to point in different directions. This led people to believe that the scene must have been lit with multiple studio lights, just like on a movie set. They argued that these non-parallel shadows were a clear giveaway, a mistake made by the filmmakers who were trying to recreate the lunar environment. These visual oddities became the core evidence for those who believed we never really went to the moon. Finally, some people question the technology itself. They look at the computers and equipment of the 1960s, which were far less powerful than the phone in your pocket today, and find it hard to believe that such primitive technology could safely guide a spacecraft to the moon and back. They also wonder about the dangers of space, like the intense radiation in the Van Allen belts that surround Earth. Could the astronauts have survived such a perilous journey? For those who believe the moon landing was faked, these questions add up to a compelling case that the giant leap for mankind was nothing more than a carefully produced television special, designed to fool the world. While these questions are interesting to think about, scientists and experts have provided clear and logical explanations for every single one of them. The universe itself, with its unchangeable laws of physics, provides the best evidence that the moon landing was real. Let's start with that waving flag. The flag wasn't waving because of wind. The astronauts knew there was no air on the moon, so the flag was designed with a horizontal rod extending from the top of the pole to hold it outstretched. When they planted it, they twisted it into the lunar soil, which caused the fabric to ripple and wrinkle. In the vacuum of space, with no air to slow it down, those ripples stayed, creating the illusion of movement. What about the missing stars? The answer here is all about photography and light. The lunar surface, bathed in direct, unfiltered sunlight, is incredibly bright. The astronauts' white spacesuits were also brilliantly lit. To take a clear picture of the astronauts and the lander, the camera's shutter speed had to be very fast, and its aperture set very small. This setting lets in just enough light to capture the bright foreground. Faint, distant objects like stars simply weren't bright enough to show up in the pictures under those conditions. It's the same reason you can't see stars from a brightly lit city street at night. The surrounding light is just too powerful. The mystery of the shadows also has a simple scientific explanation. While the sun was the main light source, it wasn't the only one. The moon's surface itself acted like a giant dusty reflector. Sunlight bounced off the gray lunar soil in all directions, filling in some of the dark areas and creating secondary, fainter light sources. This reflected light could cause some shadows to appear less dark or seem to point in slightly different directions, especially on an uneven, cratered landscape. It wasn't a sign of studio lights, but rather a natural effect of light interacting with the unique lunar environment. The physics of light and reflection perfectly explains what we see, but the most powerful proof that we went to the moon is something the astronauts left behind. Several Apollo missions placed special mirrors on the lunar surface called retroreflectors. Even today, decades later, observatories on Earth can shoot powerful laser beams at these exact spots on the moon. The mirrors reflect the laser light directly back to us, allowing scientists to measure the precise distance to the moon with incredible accuracy. This is an experiment that is repeated regularly by scientists all over the world. You can't bounce a laser off a mirror that isn't there. This physical, verifiable evidence is the ultimate cosmic receipt, proving that humans really did walk upon the moon. So, what can we learn from all of this? The story of the moon landing and the doubts surrounding it teaches us something very important about how we should think. It is a good thing to be curious. Asking what if, and how do we know that's true, is the very heart of science and critical thinking. It's the engine of discovery. You should never be afraid to question what you are told, even when it comes from people in authority. This kind of skepticism pushes us to look for better evidence, to double-check our facts, and to make sure that what we believe is based on a solid foundation of truth. Questioning things is not a sign of being difficult. It's a sign of an active and engaged mind. However, there is a big difference between asking questions and ignoring the answers. When we ask a question like why is the flag waving, we must then be willing to listen to the explanation. In the case of the moon landing, every single point of doubt has been met with a strong, evidence-based answer that is consistent with the laws of physics. We have the testimony of over 400,000 people who worked on the Apollo program, the physical evidence of 842 pounds of moon rock studied by scientists globally, and the laser reflectors that are still in use today. A good critical thinker doesn't just hold on to a belief because it feels interesting. They adjust their views based on the evidence presented. The universe is a vast and mysterious place, and it doesn't always behave in ways that seem obvious to us here on Earth. Things look and act differently in a vacuum, under different gravity, and with different lighting. What might look strange in a photograph taken on the moon isn't necessarily proof of a conspiracy. It's often a lesson in physics waiting to be understood. Trusting in the scientific method, the process of observing, questioning, testing, and verifying, is our most reliable tool for separating fact from fiction. It allows us to build a shared understanding of reality that is based not on feelings or suspicions, but on repeatable and verifiable proof. In the end, the journey to the moon was not just a journey through space, but also a journey into the nature of truth and evidence. It encourages us to be explorers in our own minds. Be curious, ask bold questions, and challenge the world around you. But also, be a good detective. Learn to weigh the evidence, to listen to the experts who have dedicated their lives to understanding the cosmos, and to build your beliefs on the firm ground of facts. The truth, like the stars, is out there. We just have to be willing to look for it with an open and critical mind, ready to accept what the evidence tells us.